Heyo, Chris, Luigi Games. Let's talk about what's new on the crowdfunding side of things this week. A little bit of everything, as always. A little bit of a surprise, a little bit of expected, and everything else in between. This is sort of the week, the lull week, if you will, because the next 2 weeks on the 12th and the 19th, there is a lot of stuff launching. And so, again, maybe it's going to be a little bit of a break, but if you're like me, there's been a couple unexpected things that have come up in between now and again as well. So take that for what you will. As always, Patreon, subscribe, smash the like. Let's do this. That's all I got. So, first up, we have Maul Peak, Asymmetric Shadows of Colossus 2.0 version. Again, the sequel to Skull Hollow. And you can see if you're paying close attention right now, I'm backing it. So we'll see if I end up keeping that. I actually ended up backing Skull Hollow and ended up canceling it the first time around. But this looks like more like a 1.5 2.0 version of it. And now they say they're going to be cross-compatible and even playable as a 2x2, I believe, as well. And so, again, the question just is, do I need both? As a two-player asymmetric, I love the idea of this. I need to watch a little bit of gameplay, though, because I'm not sure. You know, you have those games where you like them, but your partner doesn't. And I've had a few of those where I'm like, wow, I really love this. Exceed. Azul is one I like. Something else, she really likes Space Base. So, you know, anything my wife will play along those lines. But she doesn't like Talk. She's meh on Hive, which is like blasphemy in my house. But that's okay. She really doesn't like a couple of the other ones. Santorini. Not a big fan of whatsoever. And so that's my only fear with this game because, right, it's 2 players, it's 40 minutes, it's relatively decently priced. You get the little mini expansion and the single player adventure, which, I mean, again, it's fine. It's fine. I would probably back it less for those at this point because I'd say it's probably going to be slightly cheaper at retail if I don't want the single player adventure. If I just want the mini expansion and, you know, the base game. But I would probably do it more to support the publisher than anything else at this point. It's just, is it going to be up here for me or is it going to be actually on the table from that aspect? I love the theme much more so than Skull Hollow. I love the meeples more. And so, again, when I look at this, just like I'm going to talk about Sleeping Gods when that comes out later this month, the second iteration of it seems to be, I don't want to say better, but more at least appealing to me right now. And I always wonder with these games that the second version has some of the kinks ironed out of the first one. Now, again, not saying the first one is bad by any means, but again, I just wonder, as Vassal's rule says, I mean, if it's good, it's going to come around again, right? Well, it's coming around again. It's just coming around in a different version, just like with Marvel United, where the second version is going to be better because of the things they learned with the first version. And so that's how I would look at this as well. So what are the promo cards that you're getting? I didn't see exactly what they are in terms of, I mean, this says the solo, okay, mini expansion here, additional points of interest on the map. Mechanically the same as the expansion for Skull Hollow, but it's adapted for Maul Peak. Okay. Again, solo adventure doesn't do anything for me. Not packaged with the base game, that's fine. Again, it's just more, I need to read the rule book to see some of the nitty gritty on this, because I'm more concerned about will my wife like it rather than will I like it. And these meeples are probably some of the coolest meeples I've ever seen out there. So this is one, I just have this slight thing in my stomach that makes me go, is this going to be liked at my house? And I just worry from that aspect in terms of playing it. Not that I think it's going to be a bad game. I think it looks like a great game. I'll be clicking on this rules right here after this video to check it out, because that's really what I need to see. That is really what I need to know about. A bunch of previews. Again, it's fine. Stretch goals. I mean, they're already giving us everything. So, I mean, again, this isn't one where, you know, I worry about any of that stuff. Not that I necessarily want, you know, spot UV or an improved rulebook. Like, I don't, come on, an improved rulebook. Like, you're not going to have it. I don't know what that means. I'm going to assume it's like more examples or pictures in there or something, but you should be putting out the top-notch rule book regardless of how many stretch goals you get. So that one, you know, again, and they probably don't mean it that way, but even the wording there just kind of rubs me the wrong way on whatever size campaign it is. So again, enough about Skull Hollow there. Shipping is going to be what it's going to be, $15. So it's going to cost you 60. Is a small asymmetric one game with a mini expansion-ish going to be worth $60? And that's where, again, I'd probably say, going back to the beginning of this, probably no, unless you really do it to support and unless you're really a solo person. All in, for all three of those things, I'd probably say yes. But for someone like myself, and that'd be the main reason I would think about canceling my pledge right now, is just because I don't really necessarily need those extra points of interest. I don't really need the solo side of things. And if I can get just the game for itself for $25 later instead of 60, even 30, that's not insignificant. That's a whole nother game or a whole nother shipping or two for other games. And so I guess that's how I look at it. How much do I want to support the publisher now versus later? Because again, I think this is a solid game and I think this is going to end up in my collection at some point. It's just whether I get it now or later. And it's already, 200% funded in less than 24 hours. So there you go. That's Maul Peak. I had this one bookmarked for a while, but I didn't realize that they had announced a date. So this is from Bezier. This is Maglev Metro, the expansions getting you extra boards. I believe Castles of the Mad King Ludwig, though, the super deluxe, superlative, over-the-top version hasn't delivered. So I'm a little surprised to see this. At the same time, not, because that happens all the time on crowdfunding. This was a very interesting game due to these transparent tiles, but it is more route building. And as soon as I saw what it was initially, I knew that I am not like an 18xx person. I am not a train game person. I am not necessarily a route builder for the most part type person, although I did just get my first route builder in that sense-esque with Australia, with the big Z. That one, the old Cthulhu one, set in like the World War II theme this past weekend. And so I understand it a little bit better now. But that doesn't mean I'm good at it, and that doesn't mean like I want a bunch of them, right? It's still not one of my favorite mechanics. But I have to argue that if you're going to get 6 expansion maps right here with screen-printed meeples, or whatever they're offering here, passengers, whatever they want to call them, that's going to be hard to beat. And with the other Bezier stuff, I'd say that the value has been there, especially if you're looking at it from the secondary market price. Now, again, I don't think this is going to make you feel different about the game in and of itself in the first place, whatever the price is. The expansion game recessed board. So it looks like we're getting now 6. So they're individually $30 each. Whew. $80 total with the screen printed. I mean, that's more than I was expecting, but it's probably in line with what the other price points were for the other Bezier games. So, again, doesn't surprise me at all from that aspect. Again, here you go. You can get all of the monorail building that you ever would want to have. Mars, London, what'd they say? Moon bases. There's London. That's the third pledge. There's Paris, all of them. Again, this is a game where you pick up the base at retail. They're not even offering the base here in these pledge levels, I don't think, even the bottom one. So, yeah. And, oh, no, they are, actually. That's what that 120 is. So $40, which I saw a couple people online already say if you're overseas, if you're not North America, that's actually a pretty good price. North America, that's probably not a great price, or it's probably close, but once you factor in shipping, it's probably not as good. But again, this is a game where if you want more of it and you need more of it, I think this is going to be great. It's just more, do you need all 3, or are you better off with 1 or 2? Because even though 3 is a better deal, it's going to save you $10. If you never played with all 3 sets, that last set, it's $20 more than if you'd only bought 2, or $50 more than if you'd only bought 1, because 1 comes with 2 separate maps on top of the base game. So again, how much are you going to get it played? How high on this is your get to the table rating, I guess, from that aspect. So there you go. Maglev Metro expansions, way more than I expected. Now, the biggest one for me this week, actually, is Quest Kids, the Big Bads of Tolk's Cave, or reprint with the expansion. The big question for me was, is it going to be worth my while to get the first expansion, which I do not have, on the crowdfunding campaign in combination with the new expansion? Because this is one of my kids' favorite games that's probably come into our collection in the last year or so, year and a half. Because the base game is so simple, but it is enough there as well that they've wanted to play it repeatedly. But it doesn't have enough for me for long-term kid playing. I mean, it plays out very slightly differently each time, and when they're this young, it's fine, but when there's any growth to it, it probably wouldn't have enough, which is where comparing it to other games of similar repute and the kid side of things, like Zombie Kids Evolution or Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters, it loses out a little bit in terms of replayability for me as an adult playing a kid's game. Let's put that out there. It is much easier to get to the table and much more straightforward in terms of strategy, and it's kind of a no-lose game. I mean, you're head-to-head, and it's like semi-co-op-ish, but there's no losing necessarily either. It's just how many stars can you get by the end? Now, the early bird reward here, by the time you watch this, will not be up 72 hours in, and I'm on the fence with this one because I went to their website before this campaign, Treasure Falls Games, and they're offering the previous expansion for $19. Now, the previous expansion here is $15 as an add-on, or if you look at the early bird is $34 here, and then if you, I think it's down here further, they offer as an add-on. So it would be potentially $15 plus the $34 for me. So that's $49 before shipping. I think shipping is something like $15 at the bottom. So I'm looking at $60 for 2 kids expansions, including shipping. And to be frank with you guys, for a game that I'm not sure, how long I will be playing it from a kids game standpoint, $65 is a long time. $65 is a higher price point for 2 expansions that I'm not sure my kids will be into in 3 months. And so that's my struggle, because when I told them there was an expansion for this, they were super excited. The other option is, do I buy the other expansion now, get it sooner, and go in for like $1 on this and see if they are still interested by the time the pledge manager comes around. But I mean, I'll say this was a good experience and a good game for my kids. I'm not going to argue with Tom Vassell there. And it's offering a new character. It's offering just more boss fights as well, and more dice, character specific, because that's the thing. It's so entry level that, again, it needs some of this stuff for more than a couple repeated plays. Here is the first expansion. Here is this expansion. And then let's see, again, there it is with the base game. And here it is with both expansions. And then I believe, again, shows you what's in there. Again, basic. You get a sense of everything. And they give some of these as well, additionally down here in the add-ons. Here's just a little bit more details of the big bads. Everything that's in this expansion. And here's the first expansion that came with the crowdfunding the first time around, of Tolks of the Wise. It's more of a campaign adventure, 5 quests that you introduce new mechanics. So more like the Zombie Kids Evolution, that you're getting more stuff in. And this is why I think my kids would really like this. And this is why I'm thinking about both. One, sealed envelopes. Zombie Kids Evolution is amazing for sealed envelopes to get kids to play again. But it adds things gradually, and then by the time they get to the end, they understand it all. So it's an amazing use from that game, and I cannot understate how much I would recommend Zombie Kids Evolution as one of the first games once they get to that age. Again, the 2-wave shipping, it's fine, whatever. But if you get down here, again, they tell you how to play. Add-ons, here we go. This is what I was looking at earlier. Neoprene mat, don't need it. It's okay. Neoprene mat, good prices, don't need it. Additional scoring sheets, don't use the scoring sheets at all. My kids, again, at 6 and 8, are able to add up their own completely without any help from me. Additional copies, here we go. I thought it was $15 earlier today. I guess I looked wrong. This one is $15, so $16. So it's $3 difference to get it later with this, worth 2 different shipping prices if I want to trial out the trials sooner. So again, I don't know, but I'm seriously thinking about it. They've got a few stretch goals here, which is fine. Doesn't look to be exclusive by any means. And they're having some stretch goals here. So, gets their pledge for free. Well, then. Okay. I might be participating. Free kids games, not a problem with me. I will take it. But again, it's a good game. It's a very good game. I mean, it's something like 12th or 17th right now on kids games overall. So I would highly recommend it. Probably for ages 5 and up. I would say 5 and up could easily handle this. So yeah, I'll have my video out on the day prior to this video launching. So if you missed it, I talk about it, but I also compare it to the other 2 games that I mentioned as well. So it's just whether you get it here now and all, but it's still, again, with all the other kids games out there you can get, including the ones I mentioned, to get all of this, that's my only concern. Like over $100 for one kids game. That's the biggest barrier. It's a great game, but I could buy half a dozen of the other games in my collection for kids for this price. And that's ultimately kind of what I have to compare it to. And that's, that's something that you kind of have to think about from yourself. So I'll just put that out there. So anyway, excited about it though. One way or the other, it'll probably end up, or at least one of these sooner or later. So Quest Kids, Big Bads, check it out. Legacy of Thracks. Not yet funded, but by the time you guys watch this, I'm sure this will be funded. The early bird is going to be first 48 hours, so be aware of that. In like it matters, because again, you guys aren't going to be watching this in time. Again, my biggest concern prior to the launch was just how heavy of a game was this going to be, because it gave me vibes of just going so many different directions and so many mechanics, and this map, and trying to have these magical barriers that you're knocking down to be the first one to get to this legendary city. And so again, 30 minutes per player, which when I see that, I go, is it really going to be only 30 minutes? Again, miniature based, semi co-op elements. How do you feel about that? That's fine. It is what it is. The question just again is mixing the Amerithrash and the Euro mechanics. How do you feel about that? Are you okay with both? Because of the different phases of this game are going to have different aspects of both. So again, I haven't looked at this page, so you're going to get my first impressions here just based off what we see. Again, going through the basic classes that you're going to get and the prototype that you can see a little bit of the film of. Again, features. I mean, I like the fact that they've got this up at the top. I always harp on pages. Why am I going to get your game? What makes it unique? And so they're bringing you this and they're saying, okay, strategy over luck, solo game, hybrid game, tactical, replayability, difficulty levels, game lengths as well. I mean, there you go. Game length. Okay. This is what I worried about in my head, was that this game was going to be like a 2.5, 3 hour game minimum. So if you can scale it, again, that's good. But in the same sense, when I talk about, when I think about like Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor, when I was looking at that one, you can play it like 2 rounds. You can play it up to 4 rounds as the full length game. I don't think I want to play it less than 4 rounds, because you don't feel like you get the full experience, and you don't really have the time to engine build and strategize in which you really need. And so I'd worry about, again, these shorter game lengths when they're an option. They're okay, but I still worry about that a little bit. So again, taking on one of the 3 clan heroes or the shadow hero. And again, you're doing all of these things, the barriers, collecting stuff, quests, glory, conquering. Again, sort of more of a 4X almost-ish, Euro Amerithrash hybrid. And it goes through the Shadow Hero and how they're going to be different, and you can do the one versus all. $89 looks like to be the deluxe pledge here. Again, is that a good deal or not with the miniatures that they're including and the other things that are going to go along with it? I have no idea. Again, this is going to be an interesting test of things. A few exclusives with the storybook and the tracker. That's the or the early bird item there. Pre-shaded. Great. Again, you can do $12 extra. And what do we get for stretch goals? We'll see. There's tons of information on this page. Tons of background, tons of lore, tons of quotes. And so check it out for what you will. It talks about, like I said, the way to win is decreasing these magical barriers, but each of them is going to be different. Collecting relics, increasing your glory by winning battles, or doing enough quests in order to get it. So again, even a 4th way by moving your hero around and paying, special field actions to help you do that. So again, I like seeing all of this on the page, although this page is almost too big, I would argue. It's sort of a fine line. They're basically laying out the whole rulebook here on the page. Second Quackalope and Co. Quote. Second Dice Tower one. Okay. Shadow mode. Again, they're running through everything. So there's plenty of stuff here. Plenty of stuff. We finally got down to the videos and everything you need to know there. So again, I don't know. My other concern is that this dark open world multi-element RPG-ish game, we're seeing a lot of those. I mean, this reminds me very heavily of Darkest Doom, which is going up head-to-head with it right now. Earth Flashpoint Under Siege. Just a couple of these every couple months. And so I have trouble distinguishing them between them. And so I will always talk about them with you guys, but I think you really need to look at the rule book for something like this to really get the nuances of what's going to be different and if it's the right one for you versus one of the other ones that's going literally head-to-head with it right now, like Darkest Doom. So there you go, Legacy of Thracks. Now, relaunching, we have Aldarra, which is already funded, which is pretty amazing. I looked at this the first time around and I said, are they going to do something drastic after they canceled to make them fund the next time around? Because their goal is really not really any different. I don't think. I think it was around 200,000 the last time they did it. And now 72-hour early bird, all in freebie. That's, okay, all in freebie is a little weird. What are they actually offering for the all in freebie out of curiosity? Well, we'll figure that out in a minute. I can't really figure it out by glancing at the page because they don't have it up top, but the base game is going to get you $135, 152 miniatures, 4 factions. So $135 for the base game. I guess that's close to about the price point for what Voidfall was, and I think of this as more of a 4X with steampunk airships as opposed to in space. So that's not terribly different at all, and the all-in is probably close to what Voidfalls was as well. Don't quote me on that, but it comes with an expansion and all of these other rewards and miniatures and extra stuff. So again, PDFs, STLs, not really a big fan of that being bundled in. I guess it is technically an all-in, so there you go. Let's see. What did they change here? We were able to reduce the cost of the base game by $100. Scaled down to be more cost efficient. Okay. I mean, that's $100 though. You were able to scale it down by $100, and you're only telling me that it was just because of the miniatures. Hey, I mean, that's like Cthulhu Wars-esque. Again, rulebook is there. Ooh, 28 millimeter. 28 millimeter is smaller. I worry about detail when I think of 28 millimeter. I just remember Destinies, and I was more thinking when I played Destinies, as much as I like the game, that I wish the miniatures were just like cubes or meeples. So, again, I think the other concern that happened with this was, unlike Voidfall, when this came the first time around, people were not as impressed with the asymmetry between these factions. Like, they were more art and color rather than like actually different factions in terms of what they did and how they acted. So I can't speak to that. I haven't looked highly into this or given it too much depth. So I would leave you guys to do the download of the rulebook and some of the gameplay to see. And I guess, how much does that matter to you? Because if they're asymmetric, well, it's more like Root then, in a sense. If they're not asymmetric, well, that's then I'm just better than you because I'm optimizing better. So which of that are you more a fan of when it comes to that? So STLs, again, the expansion box. Is this just another faction or two? 2 more factions, essentially. Man, I don't think I'd want to play a 4X with 6 people. That would be a little bit insane. The upgrade box is exclusive. Again, what does exclusive mean? Never be sold retail. Okay. Extras, 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 deluxes. Okay. And then you get down to all the videos that we talked about. Again, tons of add-ons there. Resins. Extra add-ons for the expansions, $100 add-on. Ooh. I mean, that's a lot of money. Okay, take that for what you will. But Aldarra, it's funded. People must like it. And it must be doing something to attract enough eyes, because this is way more than they had last time. So, there you go. Check it out. Now, I'm going to talk about this one. I didn't even know what this one was. I didn't have a clue about this. Small Box Games and Empty Throne. But all of a sudden, I was on Twitter earlier this evening. And Space Biff all of a sudden was like, I think this is a really amazing game. And it was described as, essentially, if you're familiar with Omen, the card game, the battling skirmish card game. Omen with only like a 54 card deck. More streamlined, and just every move being significantly important in terms of it mattering. And then I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I'll subscribe to the Board Game Geek page and kind of see what happens. And then I was doing this video, and then all of a sudden I was like, what? I literally just saw that. So $7,000, but that's essentially what it is this small card game, which is a lane battler, but you like apparently don't kill other people's cards, right? It shifts the cards around, and the smaller value cards are more valuable because they have better powers potentially. And honestly, the artwork is kind of cool. 10-day project, funding goals. Again, I'm tempted by this. I'm going to probably, again, remind me on this one, because I wasn't expecting to back anything else this week. Again, I'm not sure on Quest Kids. I'm unsure on Maul Peak. But this one, again, if the price point, let's check it down here. Physical copy is $15. It's going to be $19 total. It gives me more of the vibes of a better Crimson Company as well. And Omen was one of those that I always had on my radar, but never really got any heavy interest in, as well as similar to the other who did Gloom of Killforth, All or Nothing. They're games that are more akin to this. So it gives me that vibe. And again, I really like games like this. I have a Japanese one. Yeah, Japanese one that's very like tic-tac-toe-ish, but it's probably one of the most deep card games that I've ever seen. And so, again, I just like the idea of this because it reminds me of those games, only more streamlined. The biggest problem with Crimson Company was that it was just like a little bit too random. I still haven't gotten rid of it, but I still haven't kept it yet for sure either. So, again, and if Space Biff is giving it his endorsement, I think that says something, and it's meaningful. So I am going to check this out. So the full rules are right here if you click on them. So I will be definitely doing that after this video. But if Space Biff gives his endorsement of this, I have to consider that this is worth it from a 54 card light game that's only going to cost you $19 shipped. So again, Darkhorse of the week. Seriously consider this. Not kidding. Here's the rules. I'm going to be reading it. It's only 2 pages after I finish this video. So check it out. Empty Throne. Out of nowhere. Silicon Valley. Next up. More of a, I believe this is more of a Euro game. Launching products. I mean, you're a .com startup in Silicon Valley trying to get your company evaluated for $1 billion. Sorry, this one. And $28 apparently. So again, I looked through the rulebook of this last week, and it was interesting because you're going to be buying products, doing sort of an evaluation of your company periodically, and using actions to get your evaluation higher by producing products, but those products also become currency for you in a way as well. So, and this, yes, now I remember more. This was the reason it was so different, is the basis of it is a polyomino mechanism of how you're putting together these products in the first place. And so that was the completely unique aspect that I had not really seen before in terms of like an economic and polyomino game. So again, it's 17,000. Is it funded? Yeah, it just literally funded. The last person that backed it must have funded it. So less than 24 hours funded there. And it's a good price for what it is. Now, how do you play? Again, 3 actions, but you have 7 available to you. So again, more Euro-esque. And you're just trying to build up your startup better and quicker than everyone else in those ways in the polyomino economic mix. So there's rules. There's video as well of it. And I know the rules are out. The rules were on the page itself from Grail Game even before the campaign launched. So it's definitely something different. Solo mode apparently too. Been playing a lot of solo modes lately to learn how to play games. See? Told you. $1 billion. But there you go. Check it out. Silicon Valley. Next up, over on GameFound, we have Master Dater from Cyanide and Happiness. Basically, the gist is you create a head and a body that is a combination of like 100 or 200 pieces, and they have unique traits, and you're trying to match it up to be the best date that you can for your significant other that you're trying to get a date with, right? As it says here, a messed up dating game. And there is a big box edition, as you can see over here, the Love edition, and an uncut expansion, which is a little bit not suitable for work. So like I said, searching for perfect companion, and you're going to combine a head and a body, and you have 3 interests to make the perfect date. I don't know what your interests are, if this is more like an apples to apples sort of thing, or what. They have some stretch goals, and they have some more things that you're going to be getting as well. There you go, in terms of what's going to be upcoming in terms of that. So I would imagine that this is going to be very full by the end of the campaign here in terms of add-ons. And that's the whole page right there. So take it for what you will. Cyanide and Happiness, I mean, they have a big following. So I'm surprised it's not doing more on the first day. At the same time, it's 200,000 on the first day. So what do I know? That's still really, really good. Check it out if you're interested. Next up, we have Gamestormers. It's a meta game storming, game creating game where you are designing your own game and pitching it to try and win. So like I said, very meta in terms of the parts of the game that you are going to be having to craft to be the apprentice of the elder GameStorm game maker. So take that for what you will. Apparently you can even create your own cards. Synergize your cards in order to earn points based on the parts, including the storyline, the item, and the mechanic of the game that you get to choose. And I believe you're choosing 2 of the items and 2 mechanics, as well as 1 storyline. So that then creates combos. Again, how do you play it right here? Here's the instruction manual. And again, down here, they give you a little bit more of an explanation on how you win, earning the more victory points or earning the most votes for your game pitch based on the other players. Based on the rule book here, when we go over to it, it's a little bit more apples to apples, and I'm completely blanking on the game, where you go up to the board and draw it out. I don't know why I'm doing that or not being able to think about that. I'm going to remember it like 10 minutes from now in this video. But essentially, you're going up and you're either selecting cards from one of the decks where you can take a number of them and then choose whichever one it is here, as you can see, and you discard the rest. And then at the end of the game, essentially, after you've filled out all of your cards through your selections after the 5th round and they get their 5th card, what you do here is you do a pitch, 2 minutes or less of the game narrative on the notebook, and then you hold up anonymous voting for the favorite game pitch. And they win the designer's choice, essentially. And then you can score up the bonus points, as we said here. So it's more of a social game than, a meta game, although it is kind of that too. So, again, a little bit different. Again, we'll see. It should be funded probably by the time this video airs. So, if you're interested in something along those lines, check it out. So this one is sort of board game adjacent. We'll call it adjacent. We'll call it tabletop adjacent. But it's all of a sudden at the hot of the funness. It's all of a sudden at the top of the hotness. So I have to talk about it because I'm also backing it. Stuffed animals, folks. Stuffies, as my kids call them. But tabletop RPG, 5th edition, Pathfinder, whatever you want to call. There's an ice worm. There's a mimic. There are other creatures I can't pronounce. A kobold. I can't pronounce them. The Cthulhu ones look kind of creepy, to be very frank with you. Here's the ice worm. That's the ice worm right there. But now that I think about it, I don't really want the ice worm. What I want down here is not one of those. You can mix and match like a class if you want that as well. Again, don't really care about that. Owlbear, kind of cool looking, but kobold, okay. Here we go. Corals, these ones. This is what I'm looking at, one of these guys. Sit back on the shelf right behind me. Also, one of the ice dragon is really the other thing I'm looking at. Ice dragon. Now, how much is the ice dragon, though? Because I thought I was getting the ice dragon with the ice worm. So, ooh, ice dragon. No, that's going to be a negatory. We're going to get the Koyurl. Anyway, you know what it is. You can pronounce it. I mean, these things are expensive, but they're also not that expensive for one of them. So, I think I'm probably just going to get one of these little guys right here. That's pretty cool looking. I like that thing. Reminds me of a Cerebus with only cat. You know, the thing with the tentacles. I've played it in D&D. Anyway, I had to talk about it, had to mention it. I'm going to get one of these. I need to change my pledge. Anyway, I'll do that after this video. Next up, Fujiyama with Ajisai. So this one was one of the ones I was really looking forward to seeing. And again, Japanese funded. It is doing killer. This is by, I didn't actually realize this is by the same people who did Ayazoi as well as My Humble Tea Party. And I own both of those. Which I like one of them much more than the other, and I'll talk about that in a minute, how it relates to Fujiyama and Ajisai. But I will let you know exactly how that ties in here with these two games. I like it. The rules are out here. You can see what it does and how it differs, because my concern when I was talking about the description without the full rule book last week and even earlier this week was how different is this going to be from Between Two Cities? And it is significantly different enough because of the combo system that you're doing with all of these tiles. I didn't get the greatest sense on the rulebook, though, of whether it was they're just in there in general for the combos, or they are near each other if there's a matter, because you do rows as well. And it runs, again, runs through the combo system here, the spring, forest, the summer, the autumn, and the winter, and how they each differ, and how they each score different points. Like you need a set of 3 icons here, and each of them may have 2 or even 3 icons on different ones here. Score the number of trees times the number of trees, and then the number of little snowflakes on this one is the total number of points there. So they all score in a little bit different way, and if somebody chooses the tile that you hand them, then you get to add one of the little creatures onto your tile, which is going to give you different ways of endgame scoring. Full rules right there. Again, reading the rule book reminded me of the one I actually preferred less of the 2 that I mentioned. And again, it runs through, I mean, it's very straightforward. You can get everything you need off this page. But this one, I was actually thinking more heavily, even when I clicked on the page earlier today, that I was going to be backing Fujiyama. But when I look at this one is more abstracty and more 1 versus 1 and more thinky on the grid-based system. And like I mentioned, you're changing the colors based on what's next to it. And so you have the ability to influence it this way. And I kind of like this one a lot better, to be very frank with you, when I look at it in terms of the play, because the niceness and the respectfulness that comes with the other, sort of like one of the games I think I have up there. I'm forgetting which one it is, though. I think it's Humble Tea. No. Well, I'll just show you it. Here you go. Aizayoi, that I preferred slightly less. I think it was Humble Tea Party that I actually preferred more, which had a more cutthroat dynamic. Izayoi was kind of just different, but it was trying to be like humble and like anyway, it was just when I played them, one I preferred definitely more than the other. And so I'm looking at this going, I could easily get both of them for $48, but I'm looking at it also, do I need both at a bundle? No, I want the one that I'm going to play, and you can kind of see how this alternates with the colors and how it changes things. And I think it's going to fit better for me personally as a 2-player abstract. So now, will I not get the other one? I don't know, but I'm seriously looking at it. Again, this is going to be like a 3-week project, so you can check it out. There's plenty of stuff here. Additional components, though, I guess I'm not a big fan of that if you're bundle locking them. We'll see what those additional components are when they unlock them and how big of a deal it is. I don't know. But again, if you're going to get it, you're going to get it here because I have not seen those other two that I mentioned that I have, the Humble Tea Party and the Izayoi, show up on the secondary market. I think I've seen one show up on Board Game Geek once or twice. That's it. So if you want it, you really do have to get it now. Otherwise, I'm even surprised that they offer it during the campaign. So there you go. Next up, and this was supposed to be U-Boot, but the designers came out like in the last 2 or 3 days over the weekend, and they said, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, they're not going to be able to do the U-Boot reprint, so they were just doing the Keep 'em Rolling to the Rhine reimagining, retheme, like redoing of this game, and you're basically just doing what it says, is you are one of an allied commander, and you are racing across this map in a more Euro-style war game, they say, to become the first one over to the Rhine. And you're going through villages, you're going across France, and you just want to be the first one across that German border that I mentioned. Now, what's new? It's nice that they put this right up top. I believe, like they said here, modular expansion up to 4 players. There's also a solitaire and another modularity that reduces randomness and gives weather. So, another solitaire as well. So, I mean, again, it's giving you enough new stuff. I have no familiarity with this game in the first place. Racing games, Euro mechanisms, and just sort of pick up and deliver don't really do much with me. Now, I wish there was a little bit more on the page because you don't get a great sense of what you're actually doing mechanically, and you really have to watch one of those videos. And I don't even see a link to the rule book on this page. Maybe I missed it. No. So I wish that was on there. What's the price point, though? It's a short campaign, 1 pledge level. Well, say what you want, but I mean, straightforward. Watch a video, maybe go check out the rule book on Board Game Geek and get a good sense of it. Roll into the Rhine. There you go. Wargamers. There you go. Check it out. So that's the roundup for this week. A little bit of everything. Again, a couple surprises that come out of nowhere, especially a couple twists when the campaigns actually launch versus, what I think is going to be up here. So I think that's always an interesting dynamic that I never expect, because there's stuff that surprises me in a good way, and there's stuff that always surprises me in a, well, I guess I'm not going to get this after all. Sort of like when Hamlet launched a couple weeks ago. I said, well, if you're only going to give me deluxeifications, and I'm not big on the deluxeifications, especially a cardboard church or chapel or whatever it was, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Made my peace with it. So be it. So that's all I got. A couple other preview videos, a couple crowdfunding games that are either coming out this coming week, or ones that are already out. I've got 1 or 2 that are going to be doing that as well. So as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking it out. Go check out that stuffed animal page, because it's kind of cool looking. I could really use a little bit of background decor. So, spend too much on board games. You got to get something else in the collection, right? Ignite needs a friend. That's all I got. Stay classy. See you around. 2 shipping